Hey everybody, welcome to Deeper Dive. Oh, wow, is
And we
that
have a
Snapple?
new sponsor this week. It's a Snapple Zero Sugar
Oh
Peach Tea.
man, that's a good one, man. I love Snapple, and back in the day when they were in the glass bottles, that was the only downside of that. But I used to when I was in college, I worked for Marriott Corporation, not the hotel side, but the food side.
Inside. Food
And
side.
we
Yep.
yeah, and I used to
So
work
that's what
up
they
in
call it now.
yeah, I used to work in Nashua, New Hampshire. And
Nashua. I know what that
yeah,
is.
of course, man. That's why I know where ENC is from living up
Yeah.
there. But anyway, I worked at an
Well, it
amusement park called,
was. We
called
closed.
Canopy Lake Park. Yeah, I know. That's what, well, and rightfully so. I'm just kidding. So I worked
Uh,
at an amusement park, but one of the jobs I had was taking care of all the vending machines in the park, and so
mhm,
we had Snapple, and it was great because I could drink as
mhm,
much Snapple as I wanted, which was cool. But it was
mhm.
terrible because you're carting around glass bottles, and
Yeah.
invariably something's going to happen. They're going to fall, and there goes your entire product. Just But man, I used to love the mango Snapple and the peach tea Snapple. So good. Woof. I didn't know they had zero sugar. Is that new maybe or
Yep. This was probably in the last maybe year and a half.
wow.
Because I love peach tea. I
So do
like
I.
Nestea, but I don't think they make it very much anymore. So when this came out, Snapple's not even really it's not even real tea, to be frank with
Right.
you. Um,
Yeah.
it's very flavored drink. But as my wife reminds me all the time, that's not even
Yeah.
real tea, because she's
Yeah.
a real tea person. And so, but I like it just the
Me
same.
too. I like it. However they make it, I love it. I don't care if it's made in a vat with rats and cockroaches. Whatever works, it works for me. I've always been that way. People are like, you know how it's made? I'm like, who cares? The
Yeah.
the end product comes out great, and I don't care if it's Soylent Green. If it's made from
And
people,
we
it's
need
fine.
the ability. We really need our immune system to be built up.
That's what
So,
I'm saying. I mean, give
some
me a break.
roaches, some rat
It hasn't
hair,
killed me yet. So
whatever.
yeah, I mean, let grind up people. That's the next step. I'm ready.
Well, no, I'm
We have
not
a
gonna
we have a
do. I'm not gonna do grind up people.
you will. You're probably doing it now. You don't even realize it. You don't know where your meat's coming from. But anyway, so we were talking about debt, right? And you said candidly off camera, this is the one that you got the most probably feedback from. I wanted. Can you tell me why?
Dead and margin,
Yeah, tell
and
me why though. Why what was the commonality of the feedback?
I think, and I try to say in every message, I'm not here to make you feel guilty. I'm not. This is not shame. This is about freedom
Yeah, yeah.
and margin and debt. Um, Without margin, in an emergency, things become debt. The debt people have gone way past the margin thing, and I think it is. I think people really resonate. I know I did when I first heard Dave Ramsey say this. Like I've told you, I'm not a huge Dave Ramsey fan, but just this connected with me. He said there's so many people, and he was talking to young people specifically that can never do what God calls them to do because of debt. And debt frees you to do what God the Holy Spirit calls you to do, whether that's give or go or serve or love or
Mm,
whatever, debt. And we're going to talk about more than financial debt, even spiritual debt
mm-hmm.
keeps you from being and doing what God wants you to be and do. And so I think that really resonates with people because I think that as you preach this sermon, I remember a job that I was having some problems. I'll tell a personal story. I was having some problems with the job. I was a youth pastor, and I was a youth pastor, and this was dumb. I was naive at the time that believed um, that standards were standards, and I went into a job where I felt like because of relationships, there were standards that were not being held tight. I probably naively decided, well, I'm going to hold. I remember going to camp and saying, if you sneak out, you're going home. And
Right.
all the other older youth pastors around me, they were excited, right?
You're like,
We're going to see
yeah,
if this guy going to really do
go get him,
this.
big man.
Oh
Yeah,
no,
go
no,
for
no!
it.
I called their parents and I sent them home. Well, that didn't go over very well, and
Yeah.
so I remember looking for another job, and the job was Youth for Christ had a regional director job. You had to raise your own salary. Um, And I just felt like God saying, this is what you're supposed to do. This is going to move you beyond just the Church of Nazarene. You can do
Hmm.
some other things. And couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. Just wasn't in a position to raise money because I had debt. If I didn't have the debt, I could have raised the money. I could have taken the pay cut, whatever the case might be,
Hmm.
and it would have been fine. But I couldn't do it. And I remember that, and I remember saying, I'm never going to be in this position again. If I have to take a pay cut, I'm going to easily be able to take a pay cut because I'm not going to have the debt. And that was a turning point in my life. And so I believe a lot of people resonate with thinking about what has God called me to? What did I feel like God was leading me in? Whether it's relational, financial, whatever, that I couldn't do because I had some debt that remained outstanding, except the debt of love.
Hmm.
And I think people really resonate with that. Um, and so I prayed over a lot of families, a lot of individuals. There was a lot of quiet in the audience, and I didn't go Dave Ramsey hardcore. You know, you heard the sermon. I didn't go Dave Ramsey hardcore. Dave Ramsey hardcore was like
Yeah.
my roommate in college dad who said, "Why are you buying your cars with? Why are you borrowing money to buy Tosh? Buy them with cash. Why are you borrowing money to buy a house? Buy your house with cash." He was cash only,
Yeah. That is hardcore.
and I mean he
Well,
was hardcore, and he was
one
right.
of, I mean, the imagery that you did with the backpack is I mean, it's a good image. I mean, if people didn't see the message, then James essentially brought out a backpack and had a stack of books, which I actually wanted to, I was thinking to comment on the books that you chose, but I
Hmm.
decided against it, because it tells a lot about
Did,
a person. Somebody must have picked
did you
those
see
books
my?
for you.
Did you see that my books? I used to be a fan. I'll pull it. It's right here.
Fan
I
of
used to
my
be a
books.
fan of Bill Moyers. I used to be a fan of Bill Moyers. He has
Yeah.
since gone to heaven. And Bill Moyers was a columnist, and he wrote in a whole bunch of papers. And he had two books called A World of Ideas.
Hmm.
These I need to reread them because it's been like 20 or 30 years since I read them, but I need to read them again. And so when I picked the books, I tried to pick really heavy books,
Yeah.
but there were some books that I picked on purpose.
I
There
was
were
looking
some
for
books of the hardcore.
my books out of mine because I got some heavy ones in my collection over there. But yeah, I was actually looking at the. That's how funny, folks. If like when most people are looking at it saying, "Oh wow, look, it's a backpack full of books," and I was looking at the book specifically, like tells me a lot
The
about what James
titles.
was thinking that particular week. You know what I mean? So I was like, yeah, it's kind of fun. That's how
By the
well
way,
we
if you
know each
didn't
other
see that
then.
illustration because you got in late, that
Yeah.
was the illustration that Brandon decided to make a reel out of. So you can go on
Oh,
sellandfields.com and you can
okay,
see the
that's good.
reel. He did the reel on
Well,
that.
I guess the point I've said this in other sessions before. It reminds me of Jacob Marley when he's talking to Scrooge and he knocks on the door and then he
Yeah.
shows up and you see him carrying the chains wrapped around him with all the
Hmm.
caskets, right? And he's like, what I valued in life I'm carrying in the afterlife. You know what I mean? It's kind of like what was important to me then is now my trap. And it really made the point that you were making also is that we don't think much of it until the debt is all in one place.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, and that made a kind of a big impact when I started thinking about it. But the other issue was what you just said was the how debt inhibits us from. I mean, being free is a pipe dream for most people anyway. But even accomplishing anything that we feel like we're supposed to do, if you could just imagine, like if you want to start walking and taking steps and doing things, but you got yourself a 250-pound backpack on,
Yeah.
you're severely limited in your range of motion, what you're going to do in the first place if you need a physical representation. But the debt that you were speaking of is much like that. I would love to do this, and I've had people say that to me so many times.
Hmm.
Man, I would love to do this, but
Yeah.
and it's like, but what? Well, I've got this debt, I've got that debt, and I'm with you. I totally understand. Like I've got student loan debt that I'm still paying for, and I've got debt like a normal person, actually like an abnormal person probably.
Yeah.
But I realize that There are things that I wish I could do sometimes, and I keep saying, well, as soon as I get this paid off, I'll be able to do that. And but then that's when, however, something seems to always pop up or replace the debt.
Yeah.
Something else pops up. It's like, well, the car now needs to be replaced now that I paid it off.
And so you said two things there that were very key to the message. Number one, debt we it has been normalized.
Right.
Everybody carries it. It's been normalized. That's bad. And here's the deal. You and I both know who normalized debt. Right about 1942, when the guys came back, 48, excuse me, when the guys came back from World War II and started to buy their homes, and
Hmm.
the new economy set in, was when debt was started to be normalized. Before that, there was no debt. You pay for your stuff with money. Remember, we're
Right.
coming out of the Great Depression, and it was a totally different situation. And when the guys came back from war, guys and girls came back from war, more guys and girls at the time. Um, this was when the economy and the powers that be began to normalize debt. And so you said that. And then I think the second thing is the problem with us, and as soon as we get breathing room, then the powers that be have said, well, you need to upgrade. And here's how it works in the DMV. This is how it works in DMV. You begin to say, well, but I made it. I made it. And now I'm at this level of life. And so I need something that goes
Yeah.
with this level of life that I so
I need to
I gotta
prove
have a
it.
bigger house. I gotta have a bigger
Right.
car. I gotta dress for success, right? And so all of a sudden, even when we get breathing room, and that's the second thing. And the third thing I think you said, which is really important, is I envisioned this, Kelly. I envisioned the debt talking to me.
Mm.
It's like the debt with this little mouth saying, "Well, I that would be great, but not
Yeah.
today, not
Yeah.
today."
Yeah. Go back
And
to work.
go back to work, and then the debt begins to, as you know, make decisions for us.
Yeah. I think something you said that I don't want to skip past um the powers that be. I mean, if it not to any sort of make a political statement, but our country lives in debt all the time.
Yes,
Our country's insolvent,
and
actually. I
and
mean, we.
and here's the deal. Here's the deal, folks. If you believe that that is not going to impact you, we're in a situation now over the last two administrations where it was a big deal when we got $1 trillion in debt. Now we're moving to 1 trillion almost a year. And here's the deal: a lot of countries, because they're mad at us, are starting to cash in. I mean, the vice president admitted the other day for half the country, the dollar is not the standard anymore.
Mhm.
If we don't believe that that debt, if you have any other reason to get out of debt, that's one of the reasons. Because the chickens are going to come home to roost real soon here now, and
Yeah.
it's going to impact everything.
Well, what you can count on is a new war because war takes everybody's mind off of debt. But
And it
it's right
clears the debt, baby.
because you basically go in, you're like, well, I'm not paying. What are you going to do about it? Bang, bang,
Yeah,
bang.
yeah.
Um,
Because the winner's debt is cleared.
that's right. So that's really crappy though. That's the funny thing but it is true across the board, even home by home. That's what happens. And we get it's just it's amazing um the situation that we've all come to just say, well, that's just the way it is. But our nature as Americans is to be debt ridden.
Yeah.
It is baked into our very nature.
And here's what I want to say, Kelly. It not only you talked about the homes, it impacts homes because of this also, because usually you have a saver and usually you have a spender. And the saver and the spender can be both off, because the saver can be saving for just security,
Right.
and the spender is spending because of insecurity.
Right.
And the reason what makes what we're saying here today different than just um, series on finance and money is we keep on talking about it for mission.
Yeah.
That's the difference. So you're not saving so that you can have security. You're saving so that you have the ability to put money on mission, to be good stewards of money. And you stop spending, not just so that you can say that you have stopped spending, you stop spending because it opens things up for God to work in your life. I was talking to a guy the other day. I was interviewing him. I was at the credentials board, and he had worked his whole life and had worked his whole life, had his own business, doing extremely well. And God said, you know, you need to go into ministry.
Mhm.
And
Amen.
this guy had it, right? So going into ministry, and his wife, right? So they're used to this style of living. And all of a sudden, God says, live like this. So from
Right.
this to this. And it was interesting to hear him talk through how God walked him through that. And he sold his business. And now he's working at a church that's not paying him. And he can do that because of the stuff that he did yesterday allows him to do what he's doing today. And I would
Mm,
just say that I said to students yesterday, pretty emphatically on Sunday, hey, don't go there. Don't be like me and get your K's credit card at 18
hmm.
and go into credit card debt. Don't go there. Just don't go there.
Yeah.
And you'll save yourself a lot of headache and a
Well,
lot of interest payments.
you said that debt becomes the master, right? And I think it's funny because most Americans live under this delusion that we are in charge of ourselves,
Yeah.
when the reality it is we have our creditors are our masters at the end of the
Yes.
day. I was in finance in the car dealerships back in the day, which everybody hates the finance department because
Oh
my
my!
job.
It's such a scam. They bring you into
Yeah,
the room and
sure, of course.
I hated the finance
Of
people.
course, everyone does, but that's just part of the game. So I used to enjoy the mental battle, but I remember I remember one time I had this conversation with this guy, and he was adamant about financing his car, and I was trying to explain to him that he should lease his car, and he really should lease it. He was a perfect lease candidate, low
Hmm.
mileage.
Yep.
He exchanged his car every 3 years. I was like, dude, they made leases for people like you. And I did something I would never do, which I remember showing him the what the effective interest rate actually was. It's called a money factor in the lease, but you can convert it into an interest rate and say, look, this is really what it was low. And I said, sir, to be honest with you, I don't know why you're not leasing. He's like, no, I want to own my car. And I said, do you pay cash for your cars ever? Do you pay them off? He's like, no. I said, then stop paying 1 month and see who owns it. You'll find out. Stop paying for it and see who owns it, because the real owner's going to come and get it. And he's like, what does that mean? I said, you don't know nothing until you stroke a check for it and you have the title in your hand free and clear. I said, so
And you
don't,
don't own it, Ben,
yeah,
because
well,
Spotsylvania County does something called personal property
yeah,
taxes.
right. That's it. Well, that's a whole nother scam. But the point is, like, I was like, it's funny how we delude
Can I go
ourselves.
off for a second? Let me go off
Yeah.
for a second. Let me go
Oh,
off for a
sure.
second.
I don't live in Spotsy anymore, so I don't care.
So I went and got my registration for my car from the state of Virginia. The state of Virginia charges me extra money because I have an electric car because they're not getting gas tax from me. I
I
was
love that.
so ticked off. I was so ticked off.
I
I
mean, of
mean,
course they're gonna find a way to stab you no matter what.
$500 a
And thank you for
year
your patronage,
because
sir.
they're not getting gas tax from me.
Yeah.
All
Well,
right,
soon they'll
I'm
they'll
done.
charge you for solar or wind.
I'm done.
I just,
I'm done my rant.
but isn't that funny? Because why do they care so much? They care because they're in debt, and
One
it's
hundred
like the
percent.
debt just goes all the way up the chain until finally someone's standing there, and the not to quote Mike Myers, but the Pentaverates out there, the five richest families in the world, the Gettys, the Rothschilds, Colonel Sanders before he died. That's a joke that he used to make. But anyway, the five richest families in the world that control everything are the only ones standing there with no debt, right? And they're pulling all the strings. But the reality is, like you talked about, and this I thought was interesting and something I want to talk about a few minutes, the
Yep.
power imbalance that
Hmm.
debt creates. It creates a power imbalance. And taking that with the master effect, which, because again, if we're looking at this from a purely just atheistic point of view, then it makes no sense for us to be in debt anyway. But if you add
Hmm.
in God
Hmm.
and you add in a relationship with God through Christ, then you've got this this problem on your hands as to who is truly in charge of you, who
Yeah. Who's
truly is
Lord?
your master. And then the imbalance of power that it creates where you're now striving to satisfy this new master because you're constantly chasing. It's like the, I love that Geico commercial where the guy has the dollar bill on the fishing rod. He's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
"Ooh, almost got it.
Almost. Yeah.
Almost got it." And it's like that's the way we live our lives, right? And so and then it comes down to like you have all these obligations, like you said, in our minds. All of these things stand to keep us at a distance from God and put us back into the driver's seat of our own life, which is saying, I will conquer this, I will fix this.
You, you just clicked something in my mind just now. One in the West, one of the reasons why we have to mix our Christianity with our politics and with all of these other substantives is because of debt,
Yeah.
because we have normalized debt.
Yeah.
And because of that, we have to mix our the lordship of Jesus Christ with some other lords. And if you look at the crisis in Christianity over the last 30 to 35 years, I believe that one of the crises of Christianity, especially Western Christianity, is that we have to align ourselves. We have to have other alliances besides aligning ourselves with the lordship of Jesus Christ because of the way that money has become our God
Mm.
and the things that money provide for us have become our God. And so, of course, you're going to have people who have alliances, and they're unholy alliances, to be frank with you. Because at the end of the day, if God, if the Lord is Jesus Christ, then at the end of the day, what really matters, what I really bow to, what I really surrender to, is God's will. When I say stuff like, and I'm gonna just put boxes on both people's houses here, just so when I say stuff like, well, I'm not going to give to the poor. They need to go get a job. I'm not going to deal with the orphan or the widow or the immigrant. And that's their problem. That's part of an unholy alliance. Or when I say, well, anything goes. Who's to say that you can't do this and this and this and this and this? That's part of an unholy alliance. Or there's nothing wrong with me getting ahead by kicking somebody else off the hill. That's part of unholy alliance. And so,
Well, there's a third part of that. If I just
go
want to
ahead,
throw this in there,
go ahead.
there's also the people who are such pure of heart that they think that rich people should help them out so that they can have some
Yes,
equity, and that
yes,
somehow being,
we need to share everything.
digging out of the debt that they created for themselves is
The
somehow going
the
to.
unholy jubilee.
And
The
that's
unholy jubilee.
exactly that's those are those that's just one other group there that
Yeah,
tends to make an alliance. And
let's make it all equal.
yeah, and get
So,
me out of the problem that I made,
well,
and I promise you
let's
everybody
talk.
will be happy.
Well, let's talk about college loan forgiveness
Yeah,
because that's right. That's right where it is. Right
that
now,
sounds good though.
no,
I
no,
love the sound of it.
I got two sides of me. I have one side of me that says, "Well, James, you shouldn't wish for others which you had to deal with." But the other side of me that says, "Huh." So I had to pay off my college loans, but we should just let everybody else go.
Yeah, I have loans and I don't think anybody should be let go.
Now, if someone wanted to pay mine off, I don't think I wouldn't be offended by it. But I'm not
Mm.
outside with a picket sign saying, pay off my student loans. I don't have any student loans. I have other people's loans.
Yeah.
So I'm not out with a picket sign. But the point I'm trying to make there is because we have normalized debt, and because of and it's easy to normalize debt. Like you said, our nation is in debt.
Yep.
It's easy to normalize debt,
And frankly, it's not
and
even our nation; it's the world.
the
The
world.
world lives under the threat of debt.
Well,
You
and
got
here's the
countries
deal right now.
that are claiming bankruptcy. I mean, Greece was bankrupt.
Here's the deal right now. You have China's done a really good job at this. They're going in and they're bankrolling people's industries, their infrastructure, all of that kind of stuff. Why do you think you do that?
Oh
Because
well, I
once
mean,
you're in debt to me,
yeah,
I get to be your master. We're seeing it. We're seeing it live and in action. And this is what the United States was doing at one time. We would invest in countries and
right.
we would help them, and then they were indebted to us. So if we would take that and put it in our own lives, when someone comes down the road and says, "I got a credit card for you," one of the credit card companies. I told you I didn't even have a credit card until 2 years ago because I went to do something and I had no credit at all. So I got a credit card, and they came to me and they said, "We're going because they don't get anything from me. We're going to increase your spending limit." I'm like, I didn't need the spending limit you have.
Yeah.
Let me use the cards. So,
Thank you.
but if they come in, they give you a spending limit. So the president said the other day, and I know we're getting off the field here, but I want to make the case for the trap that debt is and the master it becomes an imbalance that Kelly talked about. The president said, we're going to cap interest rate at 10% for a year. And that sounds the greatest thing in the world. Now, you would think most people would say, well, during that period, I'm just going to pay everything off. That's not what people are going to do. They're going to
No, they're
get
going to charge
credit
more.
cards. They're going to charge more. And then when the year is up and they take it to 33%, you're going to be worse off. So you get this window where you could pay it
Yeah.
off, but why would you pay it off?
Well,
Because
it's
debt
the
is
whole
normal.
scripture of it. We're going to kick out the one devil and sweep it clean, and then the seven worst devils will come
Yes.
later. I mean,
Yes.
it's the natural order of things. People, unfortunately, like you said, have become comfortable in this. I mean, everybody's treading water, and they don't even realize it. You know what I mean? It's like it's just weird thing. And then when people fall, you're just like, just couldn't
Well,
make it. You know, they weren't smart enough to make it.
here's the other thing. The other thing is the scariest thing to me is this. The scariest thing to me is this. When the imbalance is so messed up that you can't even entertain the voice of God. You stop hearing it. Your life is encumbered with so much stuff.
Mm.
And we're gonna make the segue in for Friday. We're gonna make the segue into the debt of other things that cause the same problems in life. So when we get indebted to so much stuff, I think the reason why you talk about money first is because Jesus talked about where your money is, there your heart is also. But
And it's the one that's the most innocuous because you have to use it.
mhm,
You know, it's like people saying like different addictions. Like, I had this conversation with someone one time. Actually, it was because of an article that I read, and I asked the question. Like, people like to compare whose addiction is worse. And it's like people say, well, drug addiction is the worst kind of addiction, or alcohol addiction is the worst kind of addiction. And my argument was, and this is what the article argued too, that food addiction is probably the worst because you have to have it to survive. Now going overboard is the problem, but it's not like you can just say, "Well, I'm just going to kick food. I'm not going to have food anymore." You have to have it. Alcohol, cigarettes, drugs. You don't have to have them to live. So you choose to have them. Whereas getting addicted to the one thing that you have to have, and that's an interesting thing. But we've become that way with money because everything in society revolves around the use of it,
yeah.
and so we get addicted to it, and the debt becomes palpable because or plausible to us because it's like, well, I have to have it anyway. And
And
then you got people
interesting.
saying there's good debt, by the way.
Oh
You know,
yeah.
it's not all debt's bad debt. There's good
And
debt.
what
It's
and
like,
one of the things I'm trying to say at the end of that illustration or that picture, word picture is, some of this stuff in the backpack is us just surviving. The problem is when the very thing that you were using to survive begins to own you.
right,
And begins to make the calls, and I think it's so normalized. It's so normalized in the West. I think I said this last week that Putin said that the reason why the West will fall is because we love to shove our faces with money and lust. And it's the reason why he said the West will fall.
right.
Because at the end of the day, money is everything for us. It's status, it's security, it's we even have made it God smile upon us.
Yeah.
The way wealth, faith, and prosperity people have said, well, you got money and got a lot of it, then that's God's okay. That's God's
And,
blessing.
and the funny thing is, it's not even real. It's made up.
Yeah, yeah,
That's the weird part.
yeah,
Well, anyway, I think we should cut this one here and then come on back
yeah.
Friday and dig into this a little bit more and then overall talk about eliminating debt.
Well, and speaking of money, we need to do one more product. One more product.
I wish they would. I would love it
Announcement.
if they would.
Yeah,
If they
yeah.
would
And here's the
sponsor us,
deal:
maybe
all they would
maybe
have to
somebody
pay
will see it.
me, all they have to pay me is Snapple tea. I wouldn't even need any money. Just
Yeah, and
send me
ship
cases of
some over
Snapple
here too.
tea.
If you don't
Huh?
mind shipping, I'll get it in about a year, but it'd be worth it. Just as it expires, that's when I get it over here. So that's great.
It never expires. This stuff will last. This stuff will last till Jesus comes.
There's an expiration date on it somewhere.
Yeah, but that you can still drink it.
No, of course you can still eat things too after they've expired. It's just unwise. Well, it depends. Of course, expiration dates are a little bit wonky anyway. They're just trying to get you to throw stuff away.
So
How
you can
sad
buy
is that?
more.
I've
So you can
watched
buy more.
enough zombie movies to know that I don't care how old the green beans are. I'm eating them. They're in the can. It's better than eating dog food.
That's right.
Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you on Friday. I swear there's
See
good
you
stuff
Friday.
coming.